Crack! The sound ricocheted off the polished glass walls of Gate C-54 at London Heathrow, halting a sea of hurried travelers mid-stride. Lily Prescott, 15 years old and slight of build, froze in place as if the slap had carved a sudden canyon through the bustling terminal. She'd been gathering her carry-on beside the Crown Lounge entrance, the early morning mist still clinging to the runway beyond the windows. Moments ago, she'd been breathing in the quiet hum of Heathrow's first-class enclave, flipping through a well-worn aviation magazine. Now, her heart hammered against her ribs, each beat echoing that single, shattering sound. In the seconds before the slap, everything had felt normal. Lily had glanced down at her phone, an innocuous message from her grandmother, Penelope Prescott, confirming flight details for the charity gala in New York. She'd tucked the phone into her soft leather handbag, adjusted her scarf, and smoothed the crease of her tailored blazer. Despite her family's prestige, her grandmother controlled nearly 60% of the global airline's shares. Lily preferred to slip through airports anonymously, an observer rather than a scion. She found solace in anonymity, the low murmur of distant announcements, the gentle clink of coffee cups on porcelain, the soft drone of conversations in half-understood accents. Then Anna Chen appeared. Tall, impeccably groomed, and clad in crisp navy uniform, the first-class attendant exuded authority. Lily had sensed Anna's sharp gaze sweep over her, an unspoken assessment before Anna had brushed past. "You shouldn't be here," Anna had whispered, her tone polite yet edged with disdain. "This area isn't for minors." Lily opened her mouth to explain. She had a valid first-class ticket, signed in her grandmother's name, but Anna's expression hardened. In that instant, something in Lily snapped from calm curiosity to raw indignation. The slap landed before Lily could shift her feet. It wasn't intended to cause harm, but force carried an undeniable weight. Her hand flew to her cheek, fingertips trembling against the sudden sting. Gasps rippled through the crowd as Anna Chen straightened her posture, shoulders squared in triumph. Around them, travelers stilled, eyes darting between Anna's cold composure and Lily's stunned disbelief. The world had gone silent save for the ringing in Lily's ear. Pain flared beneath Lily's skin, but her outrage blazed brighter. She stared at Anna's impassive profile, unwilling to shrivel before this injustice. Though her grandmother was mere steps away in the VIP lounge, Lily refused to let Anna's arrogance define her moment. With a measured inhale, she summoned every ounce of poise she'd inherited from Penelope Prescott's legacy. She would not be reduced to tears, nor reduced to a sobbing child. Instead, Lily Prescott would respond with the only weapon she wielded more precisely than any pilot's landing technique: resolve. As Lily lowered her hand and squared her shoulders, a flicker of recognition sparked behind Anna's eyes. For all her carefully curated composure, Anna had not checked the boarding manifest. She had not confirmed names or scanned credentials properly. She had only seen a teenager and judged too quickly. Everything in Lily's upbringing had warned against such hasty assumptions. Penelope Prescott's empire had been built on meticulous verification, on honoring every passenger with equal dignity. Anna Chen's slap was a violation of an unspoken code, that every human, regardless of age or status, deserved respect. While a hush fell over the terminal, Lily reached into her handbag with deliberate calm. She withdrew her phone and tapped the screen twice. No frantic gestures, no tears. The message to her grandmother flashed on the screen. "Grandma, it's happened." Anna Chen's triumphant smirk flickered with uncertainty as Lily's fingertip hovered over the send button. In that heartbeat, history tilted. The line between abuser and victim would be redefined, and the quiet corridors of power would tremble. All around them, whispers began to swell. A banker in a tailored suit whispered into a rolled-up newspaper. A grandmother clutching her own tote looked on with wide-eyed concern. Lily's pulse steadied as she pressed send. Somewhere beyond the glass doors of the Crown Lounge, Penelope Prescott received the summons that would change everything. The crowd, once passive, now leaned in, sensing the shift. The terminal's fluorescent lights seemed to flicker, as though flicking the switch on a grand stage. Behind her composed facade, Lily felt her cheeks warm, not from shame, but from righteous fire. She had refused to be a silent spectator to injustice. The path ahead would demand courage, and Lily Prescott was ready to walk it, her poise a silent testament to the power that lay within. In the stillness after the slap, she claimed her moment. For a single breath, Heathrow's Gate C-54 stood frozen between two worlds. The ordinary bustle of an international airport and the dawn of a reckoning that would soon ripple through 20 hub terminals. An air marshal mobilizing in real time, and a crusade for dignity set in motion by a 15-year-old girl's refusal to be demeaned. And so, with her chin lifted and her determination unwavering, Lily Prescott stepped forward, no longer just a passenger, but the catalyst for justice in motion. Lily Prescott settled into a plush leather armchair in the Crown Lounge, its deep emerald upholstery a sharp contrast against the pale gray marble floors. Morning light filtered through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long golden shafts across polished side tables and the low hum of espresso machines. A faint scent of freshly ground coffee and croissants mingled with the subtle perfume of rich mahogany furniture. Here, 20 feet from Gate C-54, luxury was measured in silence, discretion, and unspoken rules. Lily favored this corner of Heathrow. Cushioned privacy, a muted soundtrack of distant announcements, and the soft rustle of newspapers. To everyone else, she looked like any other teenager who'd scored a coveted upgrade. To Lily, however, this was the calm eye of a storm still to come. She sipped warm Earl Grey from a delicate porcelain cup, tracing the rim with her fingertip as she replayed her grandmother's text one more time. Flight PR-1234 clears customs at 10:30 a.m. Charity Gala in New York at 6 o'clock p.m. Wear red. Penelope Prescott always planned with precision. Her airline empire thrived on meticulous timing and exacting standards. Lily smiled at the thought of her grandmother's steely confidence, a quality she both admired and felt sharpening inside herself. She had learned early on that power could be subtle, a quiet voice, a deliberate pause, the ability to command respect without raising your tone. Today, that lesson would prove invaluable. Across the lounge, a group of business executives clustered around a circular table, their conversation hushed but intense. One man flipped open a leather-bound portfolio. Another tapped at his tablet as if calibrating profit forecasts. They glanced occasionally in Lily's direction, some with polite curiosity, others with casual indifference. She adjusted the soft wool scarf draped over her shoulders and smoothed a stray lock of hair behind her ear. Her tailored tweed blazer fit impeccably, the muted houndstooth pattern accented by a discreet brooch shaped like an airplane propeller. Every detail was deliberate, yet she moved with adolescent ease. A light shift in posture, the relaxed cross-legged position of someone accustomed to taking up space. Despite her outward composure, Lily's mind darted between here and there. The lounge and the slapping echo in Gate C-54 seconds ago. The soft glow of her grandmother's private study in Kensington. The flurry of press releases she'd drafted in her head. As heir to Prescott Global Aviation, she carried a legacy heavier than her own luggage. Penelope had built this network of 20 international hubs from scratch, maneuvering through boardrooms and negotiating billion-dollar deals. Yet Lily's inheritance wasn't a golden ticket to arrogance. It was a covenant to uphold integrity and dignity for every passenger, no matter their age or background. The lounge attendant breezed by with a silver tray laden with freshly baked croissants. Lily accepted one, the pastry's buttery aroma tempting enough to distract her for a heartbeat. She tore a small piece, letting the warmth and flaky texture ground her in the moment. Around her, the lounge's ambient music, a gentle piano melody, drifted through discreet speakers. Everything here whispered exclusivity, but Lily felt the undercurrent of anticipation, like the brief hush before an orchestra strikes its first chord. She picked up her phone to check the time. 8:47 a.m. 43 minutes until boarding. 43 minutes until she had to face Anna Chen again. Anna's glare still haunted the edges of Lily's vision. That cold, dismissive look when Anna assumed a teenager belonged nowhere near first-class privileges. Lily pressed her phone against her ear instinctively, half expecting her grandmother's soothing voice to replace the lingering sting in her cheek. Instead, she tapped into a private app screen she and Penelope had co-designed. Ariadne Directive. The icon sat beside her grandmother's initials. It wasn't a child's game. It was a safeguard, an emergency protocol to protect Prescott passengers when standard channels failed. Today, Lily would test its power. A hush fell over the lounge as a silent announcement scrolled across the digital ticker. Boarding Group 1, First Class, Gate C54. Lily took a steadying breath and slid out of her chair. She inhaled the scent of polished wood and fresh blooms by the lounge's entrance. Passengers rose, adjusting scarves and laptop bags as they prepared to move. Lily straightened the collar of her blazer, squared her shoulders, and tucked a strand of hair behind one ear. Beneath the surface calm, her heartbeat thrummed with determined energy. This was no ordinary journey. Behind her composed exterior, she carried a quiet fervor, a promise to restore dignity where it had been stripped away. As she stepped through the lounge doors, the contrast hit her again. The lounge's soft carpet gave way to sleek tile. The muffled chatter sharpened into purposeful footsteps. Yet Lily did not falter. In her pocket, her phone hummed with readiness. One text, one command, and the balance of power would shift. But until then, she would walk the path her grandmother paved, poised, resolute, and aware that in the world of Prescott Global Aviation, respect was the currency that mattered most. Wyatt Prescott embraced her role not just as a passenger, but as a guardian of her grandmother's legacy. The quiet before the storm was over. The reckoning was about to begin. Anna Chen adjusted the crisp lapels of her navy blazer as she stepped into the first-class boarding area at Gate C54. Her heels clicked on the polished tile with a precise, measured rhythm. Each tap a reminder of 5 years' worth of flawless service in Prescott Global's elite cabins. To her left, a row of frosted glass partitions shielded the Crown Lounge's velvet wingback chairs. To her right, overhead monitors broadcast the gold First Class icon. Everything here gleamed with exclusivity, and Anna was its guardian. She scanned the crowd with practiced detachment. A bearded executive in a charcoal suit, suitably polished but sporting slightly scuffed Oxfords, fumbled with his boarding pass. A pair of well-heeled retirees shared a private joke over cappuccinos. A young couple stood shoulder to shoulder, thrusting designer luggage tags into Anna's line of vision. Each passenger underwent her silent vetting. Posture, attire, demeanor. Those who measured up received a single nod. The rest, she simply didn't acknowledge. In Anna's mind, first class wasn't simply a seat on a plane. It was a ceremony of refinement, a sanctuary for the world's elite. She took pride in erecting that threshold. To her, tickets were more than paper and ink. They were pledges of privilege, and she had zero tolerance for anyone who threatened that equilibrium. Her reputation, both feared and respected among her colleagues, rested on her ability to curate an atmosphere of impeccable taste and unspoken order. A soft chime on her wireless earpiece heralded the final boarding call. "First Class Group A," she intoned, voice steady and cool. She lifted one gloved hand and motioned toward the jet bridge. As the first passengers drifted forward, Anna resumed her scan, eyelid flickers parsing the boarding manifest displayed on her pocked leather tablet. Names, seat numbers, passenger histories. She absorbed it all in a practiced blur. She'd grown used to the unspoken power that came with knowledge. To know who belonged and who didn't was to command respect before uttering a single word. Then her gaze settled on a solitary figure at the edge of the flow, a teenager, no more than 15, standing with an unmistakable calm. The girl's blazer was tailored too precisely for her years. The scarf knotted just so. She held a carry-on that didn't look like a tween's. Its leather finish hinted at a well-funded life. Anna raised an eyebrow. She checked the manifest. "Prescott, Lily," she muttered under her breath, leaning in to verify. But her tablet's screen refused to load the full passenger profile in time. Anna tapped her nail against the tablet's edge. Maybe a glitch, or perhaps a boarding error. Her lips curled into a thin smile. In her world, rules were sacred. Scan every name, verify every detail, or risk the chaos of ambiguity. She squared her shoulders and approached the girl. Voice polite, but authoritative. "Excuse me, miss," she began, glancing down at the ticket held in Lily's outstretched hand. "This area is reserved for first-class passengers only. Please step aside while I confirm your seating." The words were courteous, almost deferential, but Anna's eyes held an undertone of coded impatience. She'd encountered oversells and upgrades before, a seat swap here, a board off there, but she'd never begrudged those who followed protocol. Something about this girl's posture, poised, unflinching, stirred in Anna a flicker of unease. She brushed it aside, attributing it to fatigue. It had been a long morning of routine checks. Business class, premium, first class. Adhering to standards was monotonous work, but Anna thrived on the clarity it provided. As Anna reached for the ticket scanner, the overhead display flickered. A stutter in the system. She frowned, recalibrated the scanner, and tried again. No red light, no green light. Just a hesitant yellow glow that seemed to hover between approval and denial. Anna's gloved fingers hovered. She cleared her throat, preparing to ask for supplementary ID, her next standard move. But then the scanner printed a faint beep. Her device had timed out. "Ticket's valid," Lily said quietly, pulling out a second boarding pass with a crisp flourish. "They're both mine." She held them side by side, as if daring Anna to see beyond her assumptions. Anna's jaw tensed. She saw the girl's composure, her gentle tilt of the chin. She saw the quiet confidence, an edge of knowing reserve that whispered of secrets not yet unveiled. Anna forced a measured inhale, then forced a polite acknowledgement. "Thank you," she said, voice deceptively soft. She waved Lily forward, deliberately slow, as if reinforcing the illusion of authority. "Please, by all means." Lily stepped aside, offering the slightest of nods to Anna before she merged with the boarding line. Her gaze never wavered, steady, composed, somehow luminous even in the glare of fluorescent airport lighting. Anna watched her go, an unbidden chill crawling down her spine. In her gut, she sensed she'd glimpsed something she didn't yet understand, a quiet power residing in a seemingly vulnerable form. The remaining first-class passengers filed past, a well-heeled diplomat, a silver-haired tycoon, a hush-voiced novelist with ink-smudged fingers. Each received Anna's practiced smile and respectful bow. Yet when her eyes returned to the empty space where Lily had stood, Anna felt an unfamiliar pang, a whisper of uncertainty. She cleared her throat and tapped the tablet's screen, restarting the manifest. Lily Prescott's name now appeared, fully verified. A minor passenger, traveling alone, listed as the owner of 2 seats in first class. Anna's heart thudded. She blinked, reminding herself, rules are rules. A ticket is a ticket. She had no right to impose her own criterion of fit upon any passenger, but lingering resentment still prickled at her mind. What was a teenager doing on a transatlantic charter among the global elite? A family member, perhaps? Company invitee? It shouldn't matter. Yet Anna's throat tightened with a flicker of something else. Curiosity? Jealousy? A morsel of discomfort at having been outmaneuvered. She pocketed the tablet and gestured toward the jet bridge without another word. Her movements were the epitome of professionalism. Unfailing poise, unwavering formality. Yet behind the mask, Anna couldn't shake the echo of Lily's unbroken composure, the way the girl had met her challenge with calm grace. For the first time, Anna considered that true authority might extend beyond polished uniforms and scanning manifests. That true power sometimes arrived on silent, unassuming feet. But there would be time enough for reflection later. For now, Anna Chen reclaimed her practiced composure, squared her shoulders, and directed the final passenger aboard. The cabin doors slid shut, hinges whirring a soft prelude. She tucked her tablet under one arm and stepped into the first-class galley, ready to resume her role as the gatekeeper. Never quite certain whether she'd upheld order or merely deferred to a different kind of authority. Either way, Anna Chen knew one thing without question. Today's flight was anything but routine. The boarding bridge at Gate 54 buzzed with a quiet urgency that morning. Just the right volume of murmured conversation, suitcase wheels humming across tile, the occasional squeak of a service cart. Lily Prescott stood at the threshold, heart still fluttering from her steps through the Crown Lounge. She clutched her carry-on handle with one hand, her other tucked casually into the pocket of her tailored blazer. Through the frosted glass, she caught glimpses of the runway's pale mist and the distant silhouette of the A380 that would carry her across the Atlantic. Ahead, Anna Chen's crisp navy uniform marked her out. Gatekeeper of first class, and today, the person Lily would reckon with. Anna's gaze found Lily the moment she emerged from the lounge. It was that exacting look of someone who sees the world in neat categories. Black tie or cargo pants, digital nomads or private jet elites. Anna's perfectly arched eyebrows dipped ever so slightly, and Lily felt a familiar ripple of tension. She had seen that expression before. Prosecutorial, unyielding, a judge issuing a silent verdict. Lily steadied her breath, reminding herself of her grandmother's words. Never shrink for anyone who doubts your place. She adjusted her scarf and let her gaze settle evenly on Anna's. Anna stepped forward with measured grace, the heels of her pumps clicking like a metronome. "Miss Prescott," she said, voice polite but brittle. "This area is reserved for valid first-class passengers only. Please step aside while I verify your ticket." She held out a gloved hand as if offering a courtesy, but the tilt of her head and the slight curl at the corner of her mouth made it clear she expected Lily to shrink. For a heartbeat, Lily hesitated. The ambient terminal noise, rolling suitcases, distant flight updates, faded into a dull roar. Did Anna really think a teenage girl could bluff her way through real-world privilege? Lily met Anna's gaze, steady and unflinching. She raised her chin and offered the ticket printed in her grandmother's elegant cursive. 2 first-class passes, seat 1A and 1B, adorned with the Prescott Global watermark. "My ticket's valid," Lily said, her tone calm but firm. "I'd appreciate it if you'd scan it properly." Anna's jaw tightened. She glanced down at her tablet, fingers tapping the screen to refresh the manifest. The boarding list scrolled lazily, names flickering. "Prescott Lily," it confirmed. No glitches, no asterisks. But Anna's posture remained rigid. Errors like this, ticketing oversights, could tarnish her impeccable service record. She tapped the display again. "I'm sorry, Miss Prescott," she replied, a shade too stiff. "But minors aren't permitted to travel alone in this section. You should step back and wait with the general boarding groups." A tremor of indignation shot through Lily. She could feel the flush rising to her cheeks, but she kept her voice measured. "My grandmother owns this airline," she said softly, just loud enough for nearby passengers to catch the edge of her words. The hush around them deepened. Heads turned. A businessman with a silver watch paused mid-stride. A woman in a headscarf frowned behind tinted glasses. Lily didn't need to shout. The implication of Prescott Global carried more weight than any raised voice. Anna's expression hardened. She cleared her throat, the pretense of civility cracking. "That is irrelevant to boarding protocol," she said. "You do not meet the age requirement to travel unaccompanied in first class. I must insist you wait until we confirm an escort." She stepped closer, so close Lily could smell the faint scent of Anna's cologne, something clean and bracing, like ocean spray. Lily inhaled, her fingers tightening around the handle of her bag. She refused to back down. Around them, passengers shifted uncomfortably. Whispers fluttered through the line. A solidarity began to form in their eyes. Lily sensed the collective breath holding, as if everyone was watching to see whether the gatekeeper would yield. She had prepared for this, not with force, but with resolve. "I am traveling alone by design," Lily replied, her voice unwavering. "My grandmother trusts me. My ticket is in order. If you refuse, you'll be turning away a paying customer, and you'll be violating Prescott Global's own boarding policy." Anna's shoulders stiffened. She raised the tablet again, scanning Lily's boarding pass with exaggerated care. The screen flashed green. "Boarding confirmed," Anna announced, though her tone suggested it was a concession rather than a credential. "My apologies for the inconvenience. Please proceed." She stepped aside, creating a narrow path into the jet bridge. Lily nodded, not with relief, but with quiet vindication. She walked forward, slowly enough that everyone could see her crossing the threshold. Each step proclaimed her right to be there. Behind her, the passengers whispered approval, soft sighs and nods. The boarding bridge, once a boundary, had become a runway of reckoning. And as Lily moved down the corridor toward her seat, Anna stood frozen for a moment, reluctance flickering in her eyes. By the time Lily reached the cabin door, the tension in her shoulders had eased into a calm certainty. She lifted her chin to Anna one last time, offering a polite nod of goodbye. Anna, her mask of authority slipping, managed a curt return gesture. The moment passed. The cabin doors closed with a gentle hiss, sealing the gatekeeper outside and setting Lily on a course she would never forget. In that instant, the confrontation had shifted from an argument over policy to a test of character, and Lily Prescott had already won the first round. The real storm was still on the horizon, but she'd proven one truth. Dignity isn't granted by a gate agent's nod. It's claimed by standing your ground, even when the odds feel stacked against you. And for the first time that morning, Anna Chen realized she was the one who had overreached, underestimating the quiet power of a teenager who refused to be pushed aside. Stepping into the hushed sanctuary of the first-class cabin, Lily Prescott allowed herself a moment of quiet triumph. Plush leather seats, soft carpets, and the subtle glow of ambient LEDs welcomed her, proof that she'd won the gatekeeper's reluctant nod. But the victory felt hollow the instant Anna Chen appeared in the galley doorway, eyes blazing with a fury that hadn't existed a moment before. Anna's heels clicked sharply against the cabin flooring, breaking the delicate hush. Passengers glanced up. Capsule hotel magnates, diplomatic envoys, aging rock stars, all dressed for a world that offered them VIP privileges as birthright. Anna carried a silver service tray in one hand, a fresh flute of champagne in the other. She moved with rehearsed grace, but something in her posture had twisted from polished professional to ruthless disciplinarian. "Miss Prescott," Anna began, her voice deceptively calm, "I believe you forgot something." Lily's heart skipped. She had tucked her boarding pass carefully into the seat pocket, confident the scanner glow had greenlit her passage. She offered Anna a polite smile. "Everything's in order," she said. Anna inclined her head once, almost theatrically, and set the champagne gently on Lily's tray table. Then, with a sudden motion, she swept Lily's designer bag off the armrest. The leather satchel tumbled to the floor with a muffled thud, scattering Lily's passport and boarding pass across the aisle. A hush fell over the cabin as those nearby looked on in alarm. Lily's stomach dropped. She bent to gather her things, fingers trembling slightly. A passenger in 1B offered a cursory hand. Everyone wanted to help, but no one dared challenge Anna Chen directly. The silver flute trembled in Lily's tray as Anna set it down with exaggerated care, taking a step closer. "You think you belong here, do you?" Anna's voice cut through the silence like a scalpel. Her lips curled in contempt. "A teenager, you've usurped seats meant for real first-class patrons. Do you know what privilege means? Because clearly you don't." Lily rose, eyes stinging with humiliation. She met Anna's glare, refused to drop her gaze. "I have every right to these seats," she said softly. "My ticket is valid. My grandmother—" "Don't cite Prescott Global's name," Anna snapped, leaning in so the words were meant only for Lily's ears. "You're a child playing grown-up, and I'm done pretending otherwise." Anna's gloved hand reached out and snatched Lily's boarding pass from her fingers, waving it above her head as if holding up contraband. The bright cabin lights glinted off the Prescott watermark. "Security!" Anna called, voice rising to fill the aisles. "This child needs an escort back to the lounge." Lily's breath hitched. The word child echoed around her, sinking like a weight. A murmur rippled through the cabin. One passenger closed her eyes, shaking her head. Another leaned forward, camera discreetly raised. Lily felt the walls of the cabin closing in. Luxury transformed into a gilded cage of judgment. For a moment, Lily's vision blurred. The silver flute of champagne, a moment ago a symbol of status, wobbled on her tray before falling and shattering against the floor. Golden bubbles fizzed out, soaking the carpet. A solitary passenger gasped. Champagne droplets spattered like confetti around Lily's feet. Tears pricked at the corners of Lily's eyes, but she blinked them back. She swallowed hard, reminded herself of Penelope Prescott's lessons. Dignity isn't found in silence. It's claimed with conviction. Her fingertips brushed the jagged edge of broken glass. She straightened, voice steadier than she felt. "Anna," she said, quiet but firm, "you're making a mistake." Anna paused, as if intrigued by the defiance. Her lips parted. Whether to respond or to gape in disbelief, Lily couldn't tell. For a heartbeat, the cabin felt suspended between two worlds. The one Anna clung to, where rules were unyielding and children must wait, and the one Lily believed in, where respect wasn't earned by age, but by truth. Anna's jaw clenched. She tossed the boarding pass to the floor, where it fluttered like a wounded flag. "I won't let this continue," she hissed. "You'll regret this." With that, Anna spun on her heel and strode back to the galley. The doors hissed closed, the ambient hum of the cabin returning. But the damage was done. Lily stood amidst the scattered shards of glass and champagne puddles, batting back tears she refused to let free. Around her, passengers whispered, exchanged looks of sympathy and outrage. Lily felt their support, an invisible current flowing through the rows. Kneeling, she gathered her belongings: boarding pass, passport, phone, item by item, talisman by talisman. She dusted off the brim of her blazer and slid the boarding pass into her pocket with deliberate slowness. A soft cough from a nearby seat, an elderly woman in a cashmere coat, drew Lily's gaze. The woman offered a gentle nod of solidarity before turning her attention back to a magazine. Lily's chin lifted. Redemption would come, Lily knew. Not because Anna had stormed off, not because champagne had splattered in her path, but because she refused to be diminished by a gatekeeper's whim. The slip of boarding pass on the floor, the shattering glass, the public insult. These were her low point, the failure that would fuel her next move. In that fragile silence, Lily pressed a thumb to the private icon on her phone. Ariadne Directive. She typed 2 words: "Initiate protocol." A subtle chime vibrated in her pocket. Somewhere beyond the cabin doors, messages were already dispatching. Across 20 Prescott global hubs, digital displays were poised to shift, and within moments, an air marshal would emerge. A global broadcast would light up every terminal screen, and Anna Chen would face consequences far beyond her station. Lily Prescott rose to her full height, shoulders squared. She slid the broken flute fragments into a safety tray, stood, and exhaled. The humiliation of shattered bubbles and slamming doors would not define her. The moment of reckoning had arrived, and Lily Prescott would see it through. In the hush before the storm's next wave, the cabin held its breath. and Lily stood ready, every bit the heir to a legacy that demanded justice. Quiet, powerful, and impossible to ignore. Lily Prescott's finger hovered over the send icon for the Ariadne Directive app, heart pounding in her ears. Behind the cabin's half-closed curtain, the sleek galley lights fluttered as though sensing the crackle of change. In the tense hush, even the faint hiss of the fresh champagne glasses resting on nearby tray tables seemed to hold its breath. With a deliberate tap, Lily released the command. Immediately, the cabin plunged into flickering darkness for a heartbeat. Then a low electronic chime rang out. Overhead, the soft green LED mood lights switched to a vivid crimson. The high-definition monitors embedded above every seat blinked, then awoke in unison to display the Prescott Global Aviation Executive Seal. Bold, authoritative, unmistakable. A text banner scrolled across the screens in stark white letters against a blood-red background. By executive order of CEO Penelope Prescott, effective immediately, the entire flight crew of Flight PR-1234 is terminated, all credentials revoked, permanent no-fly status enforced, criminal charges pending for assault on a minor. A stunned silence followed. Champagne flutes rattled as passengers exchanged astonished glances. A digital PA voice, a calm, gender-neutral tone, repeated the broadcast, word for word. It wasn't a polite correction or a subtle reprimand. It was a decree that cut to the bone of every corporate protocol Anna Chen had ever enforced. Anna's eyes went wide. For a moment, she stood frozen, tray still in hand, like a mannequin whose strings had suddenly snapped. The triumphant mask she'd worn so smugly dissolved into raw shock. The whole cabin felt tilted off its axis, first one row of seats, then the next, as every passenger took in the announcement, their mouths opening and closing as if stunned fish. Lily's pulse thudded wildly. But beneath the adrenaline, she felt something steadier, a surge of vindication. This was no revenge fantasy. It was a surgical strike of justice, executed with precision by the woman who'd taught Lily that power could be wielded quietly, deliberately. She watched Anna's fingers clench around the edge of the galley counter, knuckles whitening. Then the cabin door at the rear slid open with a pneumatic whisper. An air marshal in tactical uniform stepped through, badge gleaming under the harsh overhead lights. His eyes, steely and professional, locked onto Anna. Without a word, he approached, hand poised at his belt where handcuffs gleamed. Anna's breath caught. Her composure unraveled in an instant. No amount of uniform polish could disguise the tremor in her shoulders. "Ms. Chen," the marshal's voice was low but carried to every corner of the cabin. "You are under arrest for assault on a minor and breach of duty. Please turn around and place your hands behind your back." Anna's lips parted in a silent gasp. The champagne flute clattered to the floor as she staggered back. The passengers leaned forward, caught between disbelief and exhilaration. A boardroom tycoon in 2B reached for his phone, but paused. This was bigger than social media fodder. This was real-time justice. Lily watched, a knot uncoiling in her chest. She felt neither triumph nor cruelty, only the quiet satisfaction that order had been restored. Anna Chen's shoulders slumped as the air marshal clipped the handcuffs around her wrists. When Anna turned, her eyes met Lily's for the briefest of moments. An unspoken apology, fear, regret all swirling in that tortured gaze. From the cockpit speaker, a crackling voice of an unseen captain confirmed the directive. Then, as if on cue, every screen in the 20 Prescott Global Hub terminals around the world shifted in unison. At Heathrow, JFK, LAX, ATL, airport monitors, lounge displays, digital signage, all blinked off their routine schedules and displayed the same red decree. In real time, millions of passengers, staff, and executives across 20 major airports watched Anna Chen's arrest unfold on live feeds. Back in the cabin, a surge of applause broke out. Soft at first, then building to a triumphant roar. Lily felt a swell of warmth in her chest as strangers cheered for her courage. for the upending of arrogance. Someone near the bulkhead cried, "Good on you, kid!" Others whooped in celebration. The cabin itself felt electric, charged with the thrill of a conspiracy of justice. Anna, escorted by 2 more marshals, was led down the aisle amid respectful silence. Even the janitorial staff at the rear, summoned by intercom, paused to witness the spectacle. Lily took a steadying breath as the captain's soothing PA voice offered an apology on behalf of the airline, assuring passengers that new crew would board promptly to ensure a safe continuation of the flight. In that moment, Lily realized this wasn't simply a personal victory. It was a demonstration of a principle. Dignity is not disposable, and authority unearned can be revoked just as swiftly. Her grandmother's empire had always been about connecting people, uniting them under a banner of safety and respect. Anna Chen had forgotten that human element. Lily Prescott had reminded her. As the last air marshal exited through the galley door, Lily allowed herself a small, private smile. She reached into her pocket and pressed her thumb to the Ariadne directive app, locking it with a final tap. In the glow of the cabin's resumed emerald lights, she felt a shift, not just in Anna's fate, but in her own sense of purpose. She was no longer just a passenger on flight PR-1234. She was the pivot on which a storm of accountability had turned. Around her, the cabin buzzed with quiet conversation and relieved laughter. Champagne flutes refilled by attentive stewards seemed to clink in celebration once more. Lily settled back into her seat, smoothing the front of her blazer, scarf perfectly in place. She gazed out at the gray English sky through the oval window, knowing that what she'd set in motion would ripple far beyond this single flight. Above the score of applause, the hum of the engines signaled that flight PR-1234 was ready to continue. And in that exhilarating, almost serene moment, Lily Prescott felt the weight of her grandmother's legacy not as a burden, but as a mantle she was ready to carry, quietly, confidently, and above all, justly. The cabin felt impossibly still in the seconds after the crimson screens flared to life. First, there was the muted gasp of disbelief, then an almost imperceptible shift in the air, like a soft intake of breath before a roar. Lily Prescott sat perfectly still, heart pounding, as every passenger's eyes darted between her and Anna Chen, now cuffed by the air marshal. The hush stretched on until a single suitcase wheel squeaked, and that tiny sound cracked the tension wide open. A hush-turned murmur rippled up the aisle. Businessmen leaned toward one another, whispering words too soft for Lily to catch. A diplomat in twilight blue slacks gripped the armrest as though bracing for turbulence. From her seat in 1C, Sebastian Drake raised an eyebrow, his sharp gaze measuring Anna's trembling shoulders. Even the veteran novelist in row 2 set aside her magenta hardcover, leaning forward as though the act itself would draw her closer to the unfolding drama. Lily felt an odd mixture of triumph and unease. She'd unleashed justice with a single tap, but now she witnessed the raw human fallout. Fear in Anna's eyes, astonishment in the crew's posture, exhilaration on strangers' faces. She had expected relief, perhaps a wave of approval, but the cacophony of reactions felt overwhelming. She swallowed, reminding herself of her grandmother's calm counsel. Power revealed is power tested. This was the test. Through the galley curtain, the remaining flight attendants in crisp Navy uniforms exchanged tense glances. Leah Bennett, Anna's second-in-command, stood rooted by the service cart, one hand pressed to her chest, eyes wide. A tray of untouched hors d'oeuvres trembled in her other hand, the silver cover rattling against the crystal beneath. There was no clear script for what came next. Anna's arrest had upended every protocol they'd memorized. Halfway down the aisle, Lily spotted 2 more air marshals materializing from the rear entrance, their approach silent and authoritative. One gently guided Anna toward the aft door, while the other intercepted Anna's abandoned service tray. The smell of popped champagne mingled with the tang of adrenaline in the stale, recycled air. Lily's gaze drifted to the cockpit hatch, which lay shut behind a brushed aluminum door. She wondered if the pilots had watched the same broadcast, Their mission abruptly changed from routine flight to crisis management. Already, her grandmother's private jet in New York would be receiving the news too. The quiet thrum of the engine suddenly felt like a beating heart, a reminder of motion, of life moving relentlessly forward. A steward in the back, Mr. Chen, not Anna, plucked a champagne flute from a nearby ledge and lifted it in a silent toast. Slowly, the cabin erupted into scattered applause, building like ocean waves gathering momentum. Lily's chest warmed as the sound washed over her. Affirmation, solidarity, relief. But just as quickly, she saw unfamiliar faces tense, uncertain whether to join in or sigh in disbelief. This moment had fractured perceptions. Was this catharsis or cruelty? A soft chime emanated from the seatback screens. The digital PA voice returned, lower now, almost apologetic. Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the unexpected interruption. Your safety and comfort remain our highest priority. A new crew will join Flight PR1234 shortly. We thank you for your patience and understanding. Each word felt brittle, an attempt to seal a crack in the trust between airline and passenger. Lily recognized the undertone. They needed time to regroup, to replace Anna and any unwilling attendants. In a moment, the cabin's ambiance would shift again, floating back toward serenity, but never quite the same. Lily inhaled slowly, letting the hum of tinted engines and the soft murmur of resumed conversation settle over her. She leaned back in her seat, pressing her fingertips against the cool leather armrest. The pebbled texture grounded her. She glanced at her phone, Ariadne directive still open, a silent sentinel reminding her of the power she wielded and how gently she had to guide it. A ripple of laughter drew her attention. A silver-haired raconteur in 1F tapped his smartphone, replaying a snippet of the cabin monitors on local social media. Passengers craned to watch the clips. Anna's cuffing, the red decree, the global broadcast at 20 airports. Lily realized the story was already viral, spreading faster than any champagne could fizz. Somewhere along the line, someone began to cheer. "To Lily Prescott!" A chorus followed, imperfect but genuine. Lily's cheeks warmed. She pressed her palm to her heart in modest thanks. In that moment, she felt the cabin's unity, a rare alchemy sparked by shared outrage and collective relief. Strangers found themselves bound by the same desire, to see respect restored. Yet amidst the cheers, a single thought settled in Lily's mind. The real challenge lay ahead. A single directive had toppled Anna Chen and rocked Prescott Global through 20 airports. But lasting change required more than a headline. It demanded diligence, training, empathy. It demanded that Penelope Prescott's empire remembered the human faces behind every boarding pass. A gentle tap on her shoulder drew Lily's gaze. Leah Bennett stood, tray in hand, eyes apologetic. She offered Lily a fresh flute of champagne, a peace offering, or perhaps an admission of shared grief at Anna's fall. Lily accepted, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. Their eyes met. Lily's gaze was steady, understanding. Leah's was remorseful but hopeful. "Thank you," Lily said softly, voice warm. "It happened much too fast." Leah nodded. "But it needed to." Lily turned her attention back down the aisle, toward the forward door, where Anna had disappeared. She took a sip of champagne, the bubbles popping gently on her tongue. The taste was crisp, almost too celebratory for the moment, but she welcomed it. Change could be bittersweet. Behind her, a steward quietly began passing out fresh menus. The cabin atmosphere relaxed, but the undercurrent of tension remained, like the echo of a storm that had passed but left the world forever changed. Lily Prescott settled into her seat, one hand wrapped around her glass, the other tapping a quick note into her phone. Operation Ariadne successful. Next steps: crew retraining, policy overhaul, open forum with passengers. Grandma, I'm ready. She paused before sending. gazing out at the gray English sky. She felt the gentle hum of those engines again, a comforting reminder that despite the turbulence, Flight PON234 would continue. And so would she, emboldened, resolute, committed to steering not just this aircraft, but the culture of an entire airline toward respect and justice. The tension had peaked. The reckoning was underway. Now came the work of transformation, and Lily Prescott was ready to lead. Lily Prescott rose from her seat as the cabin light softened to a warm glow, the residual echoes of applause still drifting down the aisle. Passengers glanced up, surprise and curiosity flickering across their faces. Anna Chen was gone, the cabin crew reeling from the chain of events, and the sleek screens that had broadcast the executive order now lay dark. In that pregnant pause, Lily knew the moment had come to transform reckoning into renewal. She stepped into the aisle, the soft carpet underfoot muffling her steps. The murmur of resumed service, carts rolling, champagne glasses chiming, halted like a tide held at bay. Lily unzipped her blazer pocket and withdrew her grandmother's corporate badge. Penelope Prescott's signature wings pressed into polished silver. She held it aloft for all to see, its gleam catching the lamplight. A hush fell, the cabin itself leaning in. "Good morning," Lily began, voice steady yet warm. "I'm Lily Prescott. I know many of you witnessed an event no passenger should ever endure. I want to speak to you all, here in this cabin and beyond, in every Prescott Global hub." She tapped the call button on the armrest console. A moment later, the gentle chime of the intercom filled the cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Prescott on the PA," the voice announced. Lily smiled at the flight attendants, including Leah Bennett, who hovered anxiously by the service cart. Leah offered an encouraging nod. Lily took a breath and continued, eyes sweeping the rows. "Earlier, my grandmother's airline brought you the highest standard of service, and we failed you. A valued passenger was humiliated and assaulted by one of our own staff. That is unacceptable. I stand before you to apologize, both as a Prescott and as someone who believes in human dignity above all else." A ripple of agreement coursed through the cabin. A man in row 2 murmured, "Well said," while a woman in pearls dabbed at her eyes. Lily pressed on, her tone firm but compassionate. "Effective immediately," she announced, "we're instituting a series of actions to ensure this never happens again. Mandatory anti-bias training. Every member of our staff, from gate agents to flight crews, will undergo comprehensive training on unconscious bias and passenger dignity. Ariadne Directive Protocol. We will expand the emergency protocol to every subsidiary and ensure real-time oversight, so any passenger mistreatment triggers an immediate response. Open Passenger Forum. In every Prescott Global hub, 20 major airports worldwide, we'll host monthly forums where you can share experiences and suggestions to make our services genuinely respectful. We owe you more than an apology. We owe you action." Lily paused, letting her words settle. She felt a lump in her throat, not from emotion, but from the gravity of her promise. The cabin was silent, save for the soft hum of engines. "I ask for your trust as we rebuild that promise," she said quietly. "Your feedback will guide us. We will listen, we will learn, and above all, we will honor the dignity of every passenger, no matter their age or background." An involuntary cheer rippled through the seats. "Bravo!" called a retiree near the window. A business executive raised his glass in salute. The tension that had chased away every ripple of comfort transformed into a wave of solidarity. Lily felt the familiar warmth of purpose settle around her shoulders. She tapped the intercom again. "Thank you for listening," she concluded. "Enjoy the rest of your flight, and thank you for helping Prescott Global become a better airline." She slipped the badge back into her pocket and returned to her seat. Leah Bennett met her halfway, offering Lily a fresh flute of champagne and a quiet, "Thank you." Lily accepted, nodding. "The work's just beginning," she whispered. Leah's eyes glistened with gratitude, and a newfound resolve. As the flight attendant ushered the champagne cart past, Lily lifted her glass. The passengers echoed her gesture, glasses raised in unison. Somewhere in the aisle, a young professional toasted, "To dignity and respect." Lily caught his eye and nodded, a genuine smile touching her lips. The cabin softened into comfort again. Passengers settled, some returning to their tablets and magazines, others leaning in to share low-voiced impressions of Lily's address. The steward quietly took notes on a tablet, preparing to relay passenger feedback to headquarters. In the cockpit, Captain Reynolds exhaled into the mic. "Flight PR 1234 is back on course, folks. Thank you, Miss Prescott." Lily heard the calm in his voice, the sign that trust had been restored, at least for now. She gazed out the window at the thinning clouds below. The Atlantic stretched in pale blue beneath them, vast, open, and full of possibility. She sipped her champagne, its bubbles dancing on her tongue. In that moment, she felt the gentle convergence of authority and empathy, her grandmother's legacy, and her own conviction. Across the world, digital screens flickered back to regular programming, the emergency banners replaced by flight status updates and lounge promotions. Yet the echo of Lily's speech would linger in every Prescott Global terminal. Passengers and staff alike would recall the day a teenager claimed her place not through force, but by upholding compassion and accountability. In the hush that followed, Lily Prescott leaned back, shoulders relaxed. She whispered into her own reflection in the window, "Well done." The flight surged onward, carrying her and the airline's promise towards safer skies and higher standards. And as the cabin settled, one thing was clear. Justice, when delivered thoughtfully and publicly, can heal as it shakes the world awake. The cabin had settled into a comfortable rhythm after the public apology. Soft murmurs, the gentle clink of glasses, the quiet whir of service carts making their rounds. Lily Prescott sat back in her seat, watching the scene unfold with measured calm. Yet beneath that calm, she felt the undercurrent of one final challenge. The question that would test whether this moment of justice would translate into lasting change. A soft chime echoed through the cabin as Lily pressed the PA button. Conversations died down, eyes lifting to the intercom speaker. "Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention for just a minute more?" Her voice was warm but carried an unmistakable edge of purpose. Passengers straightened in their seats. The new crew paused in mid-service, and even the engineers in the cockpit listened in through the intercom. Lily rose and stepped into the aisle, the carpet muffling her steps. She felt the weight of dozens of gazes, some expectant, some puzzled, a few skeptical, but she kept her posture relaxed and her tone even. "Thank you all for your patience," she began. "I promised you action, not just words, and we've taken steps toward accountability and reform. But before we move on, I have one more question, one I hope you'll answer honestly." A hush settled over the cabin. Even the hum of the air conditioning seemed to fade. Lily paused, letting the silence deepen, then continued. "Earlier, I was slapped by one of our flight attendants. Then, with one command, she was removed from duty and permanently banned. But I want to know something more fundamental." She turned slightly, making eye contact with a handful of crew members standing by the galley. "If I had been just any other teenager, no family name, no air seal badge tucked in my pocket, would you still have come to my defense, or would you have looked the other way?" The question hung in the air like a dropped pin. Lily watched as the new flight leader, Leah Bennett, inhaled sharply. A volleyball of tension rippled through the cabin staff, uniforms crisp, faces concerned. Passengers shifted in their seats. Some glanced away, others leaned forward. A well-dressed banker in 2A caught Lily's eye and nodded subtly, as if acknowledging the weight of the question. Leah was the first to speak. She stepped forward, voice soft but firm. I'd like to be honest." She cleared her throat. "If you'd been a random kid, I don't know that I'd have known what to do. I might have assumed it was just a family quarrel or a misunderstanding." She met Lily's gaze directly. "I certainly wouldn't have mobilized the air marshal or called headquarters. I would have waited for someone else, maybe security, to step in. Leah's admission struck a chord. A murmur of agreement rippled from the back rows. Lily nodded encouragingly, silently inviting others to speak. A young steward, Marcos, stepped out from behind a service cart. His voice wavered at first. I saw Anna slap you and thought, someone will fix this. I didn't think it was my place. If you'd been any other passenger, I might have done nothing. In the seat across the aisle, Sebastian Drake, the businessman who'd witnessed the whole incident, leaned in. I've flown first class dozens of times, he said, voice measured. Usually you see a standoff like an awkward family argument. People shuffle their feet and avoid eye contact. They don't get involved. He paused. Honestly, I think most of us would have stayed silent. The cabin fell into a reflective quiet. Even the youngest flight attendant, Mia, tugged at her uniform's hem, visibly uncomfortable. I would have been too intimidated to speak up, she admitted. I would have worried about my job. Lily felt a flush of emotion, sorrow at the truth, but also relief that it had emerged here in real time. She lifted a hand, gently stopping the flow of confessions. Thank you, she said quietly. I know that wasn't easy to admit. Here's why it matters. Dignity isn't a privilege reserved for certain faces or family names. It belongs to every human being on this plane, and in every Prescott Global terminal. If a random passenger had been assaulted, I hope you'd all have found the courage to intervene. She allowed a beat for her words to sink in, then leaned forward. We're rolling out new training modules, role-playing scenarios, bias awareness workshops, crisis response drills. But training alone won't fix the default setting in our minds. Change happens when we challenge our assumptions every day. So I'm asking you all, for the remainder of this flight and every flight after, to watch out for one another. If you see someone in distress, step up. If you witness unfairness, speak out. Lily's gaze swept across the cabin, lingering on faces that had just confessed their own hesitations. Their eyes now held a spark of determination. A school teacher in 3D rose and added, I'll remember this. I'll teach my students to stand up too. A diplomat in 1C closed her laptop and clapped softly, drawing an echo of applause throughout the cabin. Leah Bennett stepped beside Lily, voice strong. I vow to be the first to intervene if I ever see anyone treated unfairly, no matter who they are. She turned to her fellow attendants. Who's with me? A chorus of voices followed. I'm with you. Count me in. We'll hold each other accountable. Lily allowed herself a small, proud smile. She pressed the intercom button one last time. Thank you. That's exactly the kind of commitment we need. Together, we'll make sure no passenger, no matter their age, background, or last name, ever feels powerless again. She returned to her seat, heart still racing but filled with a quiet joy. The cabin, once fractured by a moment of cruelty, now felt united by a shared resolve. Lily sank back into her leather chair as the soft chime of the seatbelt sign blinked off, signaling that flight PR-1234 would soon continue on its path. Through the oval window, the bright Atlantic sun shimmered on the clouds below. Inside, strangers now wore a new uniform, a pledge to see one another, to stand up, and to speak out. And in that moment, Lily Prescott knew her question had done more than test their mettle. It had transformed the cabin into a community bound by respect and courage. The reckoning was complete. The journey toward true change was just beginning. The cabin settled into a calm hum as flight PR-1234 cruised above the Atlantic. The earlier tension, drama, and confessions had given way to determined focus. Lily Prescott sat upright in her seat, gaze fixed on the soft glow of her in-seat screen. The display showed their progress halfway across the ocean. An animated map traced a silver line between London and New York. But Lily's mind was elsewhere, on the promise she made and the action she must now follow through on. Behind her, the cabin crew moved with renewed purpose. Leah Bennett, now promoted in all but official title to lead attendant, coordinated quietly with two new flight attendants who had joined mid-air via the service door at the rear. They wore fresh uniforms, identification badges clipped proudly to their lapels. Their presence was subtle evidence of the airline's commitment. No longer would Prescott Global cut corners on staffing or training. Lily watched Leah escort a young attendant, training manual in hand, through the aisles, showing her emergency protocols and passenger check-in procedures that emphasized empathy and respect. Lily's grandmother's private jet was en route to New York, and by now Penelope Prescott was receiving live updates from all 20 Prescott Global hubs. Inside the corporate headquarters, crisis teams had regrouped. But here in the cabin, the impact had already rippled outward. The new crew had been thoroughly briefed by internal experts, behavioral psychologists, diversity trainers, and safety officers who boarded in Bermuda as part of an in-flight expert deployment initiative. Those specialists were discreetly observing the cabin, offering real-time coaching to staff, and ensuring the changes Lily announced earlier would land as more than words. A soft chime on the PA drew Lily's attention. Leah's voice, warm and confident, filled the cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen, your comfort and safety remain our top priorities. You will notice a subtle change in our service flow as our new team gets up to speed. Thank you for your patience." The words were a calm reassurance, marking the transition from crisis to continuity. Lily smiled. This was the resolution she envisioned, a seamless pivot from reckoning to renewal. She settled back and observed passengers. The elderly couple who had first gasped at Anna Chen's slap offered each other gentle smiles as they tucked into salmon canapes. The businessman from 2A tapped out an email on his tablet, no doubt already drafting his feedback for the open passenger forum Lily promised. Sebastian Drake reclined in his seat beside the window, eyes closed, ears wreathed in noise-canceling headphones, but he gave Lily an imperceptible nod when she caught his gaze. Even the silent novelist from row 3, fingers poised over her magenta notebook, seemed to be rewriting her next chapter with renewed admiration. Lily took a slow, steadying breath. She thought about the months ahead, policy rollouts, training modules, open forums in every hub airport. In New York, the charity gala for the Children's Hospital would serve as the first official setting for a live Passenger Advisory Council, where travelers could speak directly to Penelope Prescott herself. Lily pictured her grandmother standing on a small stage, flanked by newspaper banners and live cameras, ready to listen. It would be a landmark moment, an opportunity to demonstrate that Prescott Global would not just promise respect, but embody it. She closed her eyes for a moment, remembering the sting of Anna's slap, the flickering of the cabin lights, the crimson decree across 20 terminals. The memory was powerful, necessary, but alongside it, she felt something new. Hope. Hope that the airline's employees, from gate agents to ground staff, would come to see every passenger as a fellow human being, not a seat assignment. Hope that this single flight could light a beacon for service that matched Prescott Global's lofty ideals. A soft beep on her console indicated the flight attendants were ready to resume normal service. Leah Bennett approached with 2 glasses of orange juice and a small bowl of mixed berries, a simple gesture that spoke volumes. "We've got you covered," Leah said quietly, placing the tray. "Thank you for setting the tone." Lily nodded, grateful for Leah's partnership. Together, they had turned a moment of crisis into a catalyst for change. As the new crew passed out chilled towels and fresh menus, Lily tapped a quick note into her phone's notepad app. Debrief agenda, crew feedback, passenger feedback, hub coordinator meeting, training schedule, follow-up 24 hours. She pressed send, routing the schedule to her grandmother and the corporate task force. The wheels of reform were already turning, and Lily knew they needed momentum. She took another sip of juice, savored the fresh tang, and felt a sense of completeness in this act of renewal. The seatbelt sign blinked off, signaling that drinks and meals would soon be served. Lily adjusted her travel pillow, letting her shoulders relax for the first time. She gazed out at the endless sky, marveling at how this flight had transformed from a routine journey into a crucible of accountability. The engines droned with steady power, propelling them forward both geographically and morally. In the quiet hum, Lily Prescott whispered to herself, "We'll make good on our promise." It wasn't a vow of vengeance, but a pledge of stewardship, of guiding an entire airline toward a horizon where every passenger felt seen and respected. Here, she had resolved the crisis. Now, she would chart the new course. As the cabin's ambiance shifted to mid-flight normalcy, Lily closed her notepad and leaned back, a gentle smile touching her lips. This was the point of resolution, when the storm subsided and confidence took flight on wings of renewed trust. Flight Pion 234 pressed onward, and so did Lily Prescott, guardian of her grandmother's legacy, steward of every traveler's dignity, ready to navigate whatever skies lay ahead. The cabin lights dimmed as Flight PR 1234 began its descent into New York. Lily Prescott peered through the oval window at the city lights unfolding below, Manhattan's grid shimmering like a circuit board. Her heart raced with anticipation. The charity gala awaited, yes, but even more, she looked forward to seeing the first tangible fruits of her actions ripple through Prescott Global's network. Disembarkation was orderly and respectful. Uniformed ground staff bowed their heads in recognition as Lily passed. Many offered nods of gratitude or even discreet applause. A line of new crew members, trained under the emergency protocol, stood at the gate, each wearing a lapel pin with the Ariadne Directive emblem. Their crisp uniforms and earnest smiles spoke volumes. The airline had not simply issued a memo, it had mobilized a movement. In the terminal, digital screens that earlier projected flight statuses now showcased a scrolling ticker. Prescott Global Update. 80% of frontline staff completed anti-bias training within 24 hours. Passenger feedback scores up by 35%. Travelers paused, reading with genuine interest. A mother and daughter, evening travelers from Boston, smiled at each other. "That's impressive," the mother whispered. "Makes you believe change is possible." Lily retrieved her carry-on from the belt and stepped into a waiting corridor lined with Prescott Global banners. At the far end, her grandmother stood surrounded by senior executives, each expression shifting from tension to pride as Lily approached. Penelope Prescott's ice-blue eyes warmed with approval. She brushed a stray hair from Lily's cheek and took her hand. "You did it," Penelope said softly. "You held us accountable." Lily squeezed her grandmother's hand. "It wasn't just me. Passengers, crew, executives, all played their part." Penelope nodded, then turned to the assembled team. "Let's show them what respect looks like. In practice, not just in words." The group dispersed, energy renewed. Moments later, Lily stepped onto the gala stage. Flash bulbs popped as she met with children from the hospital she supported. Reporters jotted notes about her leadership, but Lily focused on the children's smiles. She remembered the dignity she'd claimed for herself, and now she saw it reflected in their eyes. After the gala, in the quiet of Penelope's private lounge, Lily reviewed the first round of hub reports on her tablet. Paris, CDG. Staff Initiative, SEMI, already logged 200 passenger commendations. Dubai, DXB. Ground crew launched bilingual etiquette workshops, bridging cultural gaps. Los Angeles, LAX Passenger Forum attracted 500 attendees, twice the expected turnout. A soft chime notified Lily of a late message. It was from Sebastian Drake, the businessman on PR 1234. "Well done, Lily. You've set a new standard for all of us. Let's keep it." Lily exhaled a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. The journey had tested her resolve, but in this moment, she felt the quiet satisfaction of lasting change. As Manhattan's skyline glittered beyond the window, Lily Prescott whispered, "This is only the beginning." The jet bridge door slid open with a soft hiss, and Lily Prescott stepped out into the warm glow of the tarmac lights. The night air was tinged with jet fuel and possibility. Around her, passengers streamed down the bridge, but Lily paused mid-step, looking back at the cabin doors now sealed shut behind her. The red warning banner, "Permanent no-fly status enforced," flickered on the cabin screens just long enough to catch the eye of departing crew members. She took a slow breath, letting the weight of what had happened wash over her. For the past hours, Lily had watched prejudice confronted, injustice overturned, and an entire airline recalibrate its moral compass. She'd seen Anna Chen's downfall, the cabin uniting in solidarity, and her grandmother's network of 20 global hubs light up with reform. But standing here, on the edge of the runway, Lily realized that the real victory wasn't in a single flight's drama. It was in the commitment she'd ignited. Ahead, ground staff in crisp uniforms paused to salute her with genuine respect, not for her name or family ties, but for what she represented, a stand for every passenger's dignity. Cameras from local news crews craned toward her as she walked the length of the bridge, each footstep echoing her promise to protect those who felt invisible. At the end of the walkway, Penelope Prescott waited beside a sleek sedan, her expression a blend of pride and anticipation. "You turned a crisis into a movement," Penelope said, linking her arm with Lily's. "That takes courage far beyond your years." Lily nodded, feeling the tender gravity of her grandmother's praise. They walked together toward the gala's waiting crowd, hospital staff, benefactors, reporters, and Lily felt a gentle surge of purpose. She was more than a teenager who'd been slapped. She was a catalyst for lasting change. The flicker of runway floodlights painted her silhouette against the night sky, a quiet beacon for the transformations yet to come. Moments later, Lily faced the assembled guests. Microphones lifted, flashbulbs popped, but she found her focus on the eager faces before her. "Tonight," she began, voice clear and warm, "we proved that one person can change everything. But real change happens when all of us choose to speak up, for ourselves and for each other." A soft murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Lily offered a small, sincere smile. "If you've ever felt powerless, know that your voice matters. And if you believe in respect and dignity as much as I do, I invite you to join this journey." As applause rose around her, Lily Prescott felt the runway beneath her settle into steadiness. Just like the airline she loved would now soar on wings of fairness. The path ahead would demand vigilance and compassion, but in this moment, she knew they were ready. If you enjoyed Lily's story and believe in the power of quiet courage, share your thoughts below. Hit like and subscribe for more tales of justice and transformation. Your voice could be the next force for change.